Welcome, welcome. This holy instant would I share with you. Be you in charge, for I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. I'm talking to my inner teacher here. Welcome to the show. I'm Reverend Tomas Garza. And as you may know, this is a long-running video series on A Course in Miracles. And we're nearly, if you can believe it, nearly at the end of the much vaunted, and sometimes much misunderstood, maligned workbook for students, which people famously think about a lot. And start and stop. And if you've been through all of this to the end, that's amazing. It really, really is. And if you haven't, don't worry about it. You learned, be confident that you learned exactly what you were supposed to learn in the first 23 lessons, if you made it that far, right? Or 19 or 200. The cool thing about it, you can always pick it right back up. Or start over. Jesus doesn't care. This is a self-study course. So the few phrases that I just recited were directed at my inner teacher, the Holy Spirit. And that's the idea for today, lesson 364. Really, the next recording will be lesson 365, and deliberately, of course, Jesus has us go through this idea for 5 consecutive days. This holy instant would I share with you. Be you in charge, for I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. Let's focus on the word certain here today. You may find yourself asking, well, how can I, in fact, be certain that following an invisible teacher will bring me peace? Well, in the abstract, if you're just dropping in, wondering what this whole Course in Miracles thing is about anyway, if you're curious about the workbook, I want you to start at lesson 1. That's what Jesus wants you to do. So that's what we should all do, isn't it? It's sequential. And well, ultimately, there is no sequence of anything, time, space, no gradations, no separations, no categories of any kind. Here in the world in which we appear to find ourselves, we need things like a linear sequential sequence of ideas presented in the precise order that Jesus means to present them. Completely deliberate, systematic. Why? Because in order to experience the peace of God, we have to allow it to be just as it is. And that, my friends, is what the ego resists completely. Giving up control. Now, you may not label yourself a domineering person, and that's fine if you don't. You may not label yourself a boss or a leader or a control freak. I always laugh at that term, control freak, because we tend to think of certain personalities in the world, certain types of people that want to control everything, yet the reality is, when we identify with the ego, we want to be in control ourselves. Therefore, we're all control freaks. And how does it work out? Well, we get war. On a large scale, we get war. We get political strife, discord, societies being ripped apart. And that's been the course of human history, hasn't it? One rises, another is torn apart from inside, almost always, right? Yeah, and we have conflict left and right. What happens when we decide to leave this control and manipulation of phenomena to our inner teacher is, in fact, if you've done it, a sense of relief, isn't it? Should provide a sense of profound relief that, wow, I don't have to do any of this. It wasn't working out anyway. And eventually, we'll all reach the conclusion that our control freakness is not getting us what we really want. Might get you what you want temporarily in the world. Someone might do something that you bade them to do because they're afraid of you, or they just don't want to rock the boat. Or maybe they even agree with it. Who knows? I don't know. It seems like you get your way. Are you really getting your way? Are you getting the peace of God? How are you? How do you feel? How do you feel when you temporarily get your way? Is it at someone's expense? Can you rest 100% certain, here's the word again. Can you rest certain in your knowledge that everything that you have schemed, manipulated, let's use that word for what it is, and contrived, can you rest 100% certain that everything you've concocted will inure to the maximum benefit of all throughout space and time? Guaranteed 100%. Can you arrange that? And if you answer yes to that, that yeah, I can do that, do you believe yourself? You do see where I'm going with that. This is part of the essence of the spiritual path. It's part of what no matter what tradition you follow, it's what we're encouraged to do, is to step aside, to let go of control. And when we do, we can be assured, we can rest in certainty that the direction of our inner teacher will give us peace. Now, here in the workbook of sequential lessons from 1 to 365, as we were just talking about, we have some ideas that we've seen before, such as, above all else, I want to see, I want the peace of God. That's a previous workbook idea. And you'll know when it comes to the repetition of phrases that there are certain phrases that get repeated as a teaching and learning device here in A Course in Miracles, in the workbook included. And lessons 201 to 220, 20 of them in a row, in fact, that really pops to mind. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. We're meant to do that 20 lessons in a row so that it sticks. Same with these last 5 lessons. This holy instant right now, yeah, this holy instant would I share with you, right? I give it to you, my teacher. Be you in charge. Yeah, take the wheel, right? Take charge, for I would follow you, your direction, your knowledge, certain that this direction gives me peace. It leads to the peace of God. The practice of forgiveness leads us to the peace of God. Yes, it's an illusion. There's nothing to forgive. There's no one to forgive. There's no separate other to forgive. There's no split self to forgive. But here, when we identify with the ego, this is the tool that leads away from suffering. It's an extension of love. It's working a miracle. The miracle, of course, being any shift from fear to love, from the ego to God. It's any switch of allegiance in your mind, no matter how temporary, no matter how long you remain consciously aware and acting on that switch. It's any switch. Which means that you, my friend, are a miracle worker. You do not have to bend spoons. Isn't that nice? I mean, you might, I don't know. You might levitate objects with the power of your own thought, like Yoda. I don't know. It's been done. But the point of all of this, the point of all of these lessons and spiritual practice is to change your mind, is to begin to question. And I hope that you have begun to question, not just what I say, question what I say. Oh, yeah, absolutely. These words aren't mine. I'm simply delivering them. And I invite questioning. In fact, we should all invite questioning here on the spiritual path. While we're at it, let's extend that skepticism, if you want to call it that, call it that. Doesn't matter, does it? Extend that to everything and everyone, keeping nothing occluded and hidden from yourself. Question the very foundations of everything you currently believe about who you are, about how everyone else is, about reality, the world itself. What if we had it completely wrong? What then? What if everything that you've been taught keeps you trapped in a virtual prison house of suffering? If it keeps you in samsara, yeah? Same thing. Would you seek a path to peace? That's what spirituality is a path to peace. Now, do you have to follow the teachings of A Course in Miracles specifically to the letter? No. You might be popping in on this series of videos and think, yeah, I don't really feel drawn to this material. I'm going to choose another tradition. Excellent. Seek. Do it. Right? And when you discover that someone or some tradition or a combination of traditions is saying something that speaks to you on a gut, deep level that you can't quite place, then follow that. Go deep with that. Go deeper with that. By the way, when we reach lesson 365 here, which is actually in the very next video, that's not the end for us. It certainly will not be the end of this series of videos, because there are a number of other components of the course to come. And while we still appear to be here in the world, our work isn't ever done, is it? So we can always go another layer deeper. And that's the exploration that we're all invited to, no matter what tradition or traditions we follow and feel drawn to. And I will say this for those who might be seeking a tradition, actively seeking and looking to see what's out there. That's excellent, right? And sampling this, sampling that, a little bit of that. When something speaks to you, just trust your inner knowing that that's a path that you should explore and go deep with. So Eventually, we will all arrive at that. There is what Jesus calls in the Manual for Teachers, that's another component of this course. He calls it the universal curriculum, which is spirituality in general. Now, there are many doors. That explains the wild variety of religious and spiritual traditions that exist in the world, doesn't it? That's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Isn't that really wonderful that there are many different approaches that are suited to different personalities, that are placed in time and space in certain cultures and parts of the world? There's one approach on this side of the world, another approach seems different, same God. On the other side, there are different doors. How can I confidently say, same God? God is. And there you have it. That's all that is. And you, just as I and your worst political enemy, historical dictators, your loving mother, your loving grandmother, your children, if you have them, everyone is part of this. It's who we are. You could choose to see everything that comes up in your experience as an opportunity to rapid fire, turbocharge, accelerate what we call growth and progress. In other words, your own awakening. Pema Chodron, the very famous Tibetan Buddhist nun who lives in Nova Scotia, really puts it very, very well. She's written several books. All of them I can recommend very highly for students of spirituality. You don't have to be a Buddhist or a student of Buddhism at all, right? But everything, she says, is the raw material for awakening. You could see that in the lens of A Course in Miracles, can't you? Everything painful that makes us feel bad is an opportunity for forgiveness. Everything that we have an initial gut judgy reaction to is an opposite, or excuse me, is an opportunity. That was funny. It's an opportunity for forgiveness, isn't it? And everything that is beautiful, like a gorgeous sunset, like a cute puppy, like all the warm feels we get when we're madly in love with somebody, all of that is symbolic of our own beauty as the Son of God, as Christ. Remember that Christ is not limited to simply Jesus. Everything that's beautiful is symbolic of our own radiance. Yeah, of our own love, of our own joy, our own limitlessness. Everything that appears to us is a divine gift. It's the raw material for awakening. So I invite you to see it this way. Does this take time to adopt this view? Yes. Happily, for all of us, that's what time is for. All right. Thank you, as always, for joining me. And well, we'll be back here because there's so much to learn. Always. Thanks for joining me.